Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander's Core Studio. Welcome to the show. So, Mom spoiler season, March of the Machine spoiler season is in full swing already, and it's not even time for the actual, whatever Wizards Fun Times Twitch stream thing to happen yet. It hasn't happened yet, and yet we still have spoilers because earlier this morning, well, there was a Forbes article, and it had some awesome spoilers and some very sad ones too. No! Brimaz! Okay, Brimaz was the king of Oreskos. I believe that was the card. And no longer the king. I mean, maybe he's still king, but now a Phyrexian, unfortunately. So yeah, yet another one bites the dust, as Queen would say. A 3/4 Phyrexian cat that costs 2 white, black, and says, whenever you cast a Phyrexian creature or artifact creature spell, incubate X. Rex that spell's made of value. Now, incubate is a brand new mechanic from this set. Yeah, I mean, obviously, unless you... I've never heard of it before, so I believe it's a brand new mechanic. It seems like a brand new mechanic. It is a brand new mechanic. Create an incubator token with X+1 counters on it, and pay to transform this artifact. It transforms into a 0/0 Phyrexian artifact creature. That's a really interesting mechanic. Let's read the rest of this first. We'll get back to that. At the beginning of each end step, if a Phyrexian died under your control this turn, proliferate. So, a very interesting commander. One that obviously can go Phyrexian tribal, can go artifact creature tribal, go a mixture of both, and also really take advantage of proliferating in many ways. Now, incubate is a very interesting mechanic. I really like the design of it. Again, they're starting to make more and more of these kind of mechanics where it's like, yeah, we are going to give you a bunch of different ways to make different kinds of artifact tokens. I mean, they all kind of started with what, like clues, treasures, food tokens, etc., etc. And now we're like, hey, let's just add more and more and more kinds of tokens. You got blood tokens, and now incubate tokens as well. So yeah, definitely an interesting amount of artifact tokens. And these are, are not artifact creature tokens to start off with, but they can become them. So again, it turns into a 0/0 artifact creature, or Phyrexian artifact creature, which of course the Phyrexian part is important. And also, again, it's going to be based on, its number of counters on it is going to be based on how big that artifact creature spell or Phyrexian creature spell was. So the bigger the spell, I mean, it's the same token size to start, but once you pay that 2, it is going to be a more massive threat, a more massive creature. And of course, those creatures can become even more massive. They don't even have to be incubated first, or, you don't have to activate the incubation, whatever the phrasing is for that, in order to get bigger, because obviously, when you are proliferating, which obviously your commander can help do, as well as other effects that we'll get to here in a bit, yeah, you can keep proliferating, getting more and more of those counters on even just that artifact, or that just artifact token, essentially, before it even becomes a Phyrexian creature. So, yeah, and of course there are other benefits from, proliferating as well. I mean, you literally could utilize this, in an infect strategy if you really wanted to as well. If you want to go just heavy infect, you can, because this commander can help you proliferate to get more, poison counters on your opponents. Obviously, there are other things that maybe have charge counters, etc., etc. There's other ways to take advantage of proliferating, and this commander can definitely help you out with that. Now, don't misread that like this, like I misread this. This specifically does say artifact creature spell. So when I first was like, oh my goodness, yeah, all the artifacts in the world, yeah, specifically this is only going to trigger when you cast artifact creature spells, not just artifact spells. So your typical mana rocks aren't going to help you incubate. That's a phrase that I never thought I'd be saying in Magic, but now I have. So there you go. Now, there's a lot of powerful things that you can do with this commander. On this episode, I'm going to be taking you through the budget buys, cards that are less than $1, cards that are within my budget, as well as the pricier picks, cards that are above $1. Unfortunately, out of my budget, might be in your budget though. Regardless, all these cards will be in a link in the description below. Make sure you consider picking some of them up sooner rather than later, because yeah, when new exciting commanders like this one are spoiled, sometimes cards that work really well with them go up in price sooner than later. Now, with all that said, let's jump into those budget buys after we all just have, just a little cry about Brimaz falling to the Phyrexians. Okay, now let's jump into the budget buys. I'm over it, just kidding. So first up, I want to bring up Foundry Inspectors. So again, artifact creatures is definitely a strategy that you can consider with this commander, or again, you can do a combination of both. I mean, I think the way that I would probably do it would probably be focusing more on artifact creatures, because there are more ways to use and abuse them than just strictly going Phyrexian creature tribe. Although Phyrexian creature tribal is now a very popular tribe. I think it like jumped up to number 5 really quickly. Regardless, Foundry Inspector, back to the card. 3/2 construct. Artifact spells you cast cost wants to cast. Again, Yeah, cost reduction, kind of a powerful thing. A lot of ways to reduce the cost of artifacts, and when you are reducing the cost of artifacts, at times you can start casting them for free. So yeah, again, additional value just by casting your artifact creatures. Again, just by casting this, yeah, you're getting a 3/2. That's nice. There are, of course, ways to make it even deadlier. We'll talk about some of those here in a bit. But yeah, reducing the cost of your further artifact creature spells is great. And again, on top of that, you are getting, again, that incubated, you know, creature or token, whatever it's called. It's not a creature token to start. You know what I mean? That has 3 counters on it. So basically, for the cost of 3 mana, you are getting 6 power on the board, or 6 potential power, I should say. I guess technically you need to spend the extra 2, you know, to actually activate it, but still, you know what I mean? There's a lot of power potential, even a simple card like this. Speaking of power potential, my goodness, Metalwork Colossus can do so much work for you with a deck like this. 10/10 artifact creature construct that costs 11. It's going to cost X less to cast for X, total converted mana cost of non-creature artifacts you control. So this one does get reduced by, say, your mana rocks and whatnot. So, or the most of your mana rocks. We'll talk about one here in a bit that doesn't reduce it. Regardless, at times you can definitely cast this for basically no mana. And when you are doing so, again, you've got a 10/10, which you can sacrifice 2 artifacts to bring them back from your graveyard to your hand. And again, you're going to be making a lot of artifact tokens that you can just sacrifice to bring this back to then make another giant artifact token. Because, hey, when you cast this, even if you're casting it for 0 mana, Brimaz is like, oh, well, that's 11 mana cost. So, hey, here's 11 counters on this incubation token. And you're going to be like, great, 2 mana. Whenever I want, I can activate that and have an 11/11 on the board. Bigger than the actual Metalwork Colossus. So, yeah, this card can be absolutely incredible with a commander like this. Next up, Everflowing Chalice, an artifact that first up does not reduce the cost of your Metalwork Colossus. Unfortunately, it is a mana rock. It's a fantastic one, and it's incredible a commander like this that can proliferate multi-kicker too. Basically, it's going to enter the battlefield that may charge counters on it and tap for that much for each charge counter, essentially. So yeah, it can tap for a ton of mana, and even more now with a commander like this. Again, every single time a Phyrexian creature dies, including those incubation tokens, once they're, you know, paying the 2 to make it a Phyrexian creature, then you get to proliferate. Or I should say, every single time. At the end step, if one died. Okay, you know what I mean. It's, I mean, not that confusing, but I'm saying it in a weird way. I'm so sorry. Regardless, proliferating is obviously very impactful with this. I mean, with each trip around the table, if you got, say, a free sacrifice outlet, easily you can proliferate 4 times, getting 4 more counters on this to give you an incredible amount of mana throughout the game with this, which you can obviously use to, you know, activate more incubation tokens or, you know, cast giant spells, etc., etc. Next up, speaking of something that is giant, Orochi Hatchery. Now, unfortunately, this does not make Phyrexians. That would be a lot better if it did. That being said, there are certain ways to turn them into Phyrexians. We'll talk about that here in a bit. Regardless, this is an incredible card, again, with a proliferate commander. Enters battlefield with X charge counters on it. You can even just spend, you know, 0 on this. Actually, no, you need to spend at least 2. Never mind. 1 and 1 for each of those X's. Enters battlefield with even 1 charge counter on it. That can just get things started. Pay 5 tap, make a 1/1 snake for each charge counter on it. So, yeah, this essentially can be like, hey, what we're going to be doing is just getting 1 charge counter on it. We're going to proliferate a lot throughout the game, get a ton of counters on this, and, you know, maybe, you know, it's got 10 counters on it. Cool. Pay 5 mana tap, make 10 snakes out of nowhere. Yeah, again, just a simple artifact like this, again, can have a big impact. Again, keep in mind those charge counter artifacts that can really take advantage of your commander's proliferation. And also, there's other ways to proliferate, too, that we'll talk about here in a bit. And by a bit, I mean right now. Throne of Geth. Artifact, tap, sacrifice an artifact, proliferate. So again, on top of your commander proliferating, you can proliferate with this, too. So again, all those counters on those incubators, all those charge counters that you're talking about as well, and probably other +1 counters out there as well. Other, you know, maybe if you got, again, a poison strategy with this, all of that can just be even more impactful with a card like this. Hey, you know, those incubation tokens, you can actually utilize that with this too. You can tap and sacrifice them. There's also certain, you know, death triggers that you care about, again, like your commanders. So again, ensuring that you can utilize, again, a creature to sacrifice, you know, with this, or an artifact creature, I should say, to proliferate, to help your other effects even more, to help your commander trigger as well. This can be massive. Again, just by activating this, essentially it's a double proliferate in combination with your commander, and that can get out of control quite quickly. Speaking of out of control, Fanatical Devotion, a great card for a deck like this. This can be a just fantastic way to protect your things, and also, again, a free sacrifice outlet to ensure that you are getting your commander's trigger on each end step. Enchantment for 2 and a white. Sacrifice a creature, generate target creature. This card just keeps bouncing back and forth between, at least since I started the channel, between very budget friendly to above budget, at least for me. And it's back underneath. I think it's like 99 cents right now. Regardless, a great free sacrifice outlet, one that you typically don't see in white anymore, you know, just, hey, sacrifice creatures for free. Typically, that is in mono black these days. Regardless, being able to sacrifice a creature, regenerate a creature is a great way to protect a key piece, like, you know, your commander. And with your, you know, incubation tokens, you have a ton of creatures in play, and hey, or a ton of potential creatures even, I should say. Even if you don't have any other creatures on the board, but you've got an incubation token, and your commander's out there, and someone tries to take out your commander, you're like, pay 2. Make this incubation token into a creature, sacrifice it, protect my commander, and then proliferate at the end of the step. So have fun with that. Yeah, a great way to do that. A great thing to consider. Again, make sure you're considering free sacrifice outlets. Next up, when you are sacrificing things, of course, you can get even more value out of it. Even more punishing effects for your opponents with Marionette Master. This card finally is back underneath, you know, $1. It's finally budget friendly again. 1/3, fabricate 3. So when it enters the battlefield, you can get 3 counters on it or 3 servos in play. You're going to want to pick the counters with this commander. This is absolutely incredible with this commander because whenever an artifact you can pull in the graveyard from the battlefield, target opponent loses life equal to Marionette's power. So you sacrifice, you know, again, let's just say any, it doesn't have to be an artifact creature even, just any of your incubation tokens, just sacrifice it. Cool. Hey, let's drain that opponent for 4. End step, let's proliferate, or actually I guess you'd have to make an artifact creature first. Anyways, let's assume you did that. Then let's proliferate with our commander, get another counter on all of our things, including Marionette Master, to make it into 5 power. Now, every single time one of your artifacts goes in the graveyard, you are going to be draining an opponent for 5. And of course, this just adds more and more and more throughout the game. This can just be a wrecking ball that demolishes your opponents essentially on its own. Well, you need other things in play, obviously, but you know what I mean. This is kind of like the end game. This can just take out your opponents in absolutely no time. It is an incredible card. And you can even just hold opponents hostage with something like this. You can be like, okay, hey, you know how you're going to attack me? Well, I have lethal on you because Marionette Master has 10 power. I can easily sacrifice these 2 artifacts and drain you for 20. So instead of attacking me, go attack Billy over there. So yeah, definitely a great way to, well, threaten your opponents. Anyways, next up, Mere Entity. This is a Phyrexian. Yep. This is the first Phyrexian I'm bringing up. A 1/1 shapeshifter that has changeling. Again, it's every creature type, which includes Phyrexian. So essentially, this is like, hey, you know what? Those other Phyrexians might cost a lot more or do other things, but you know what? I'm really cool, actually, too. I'm a Phyrexian as well. So yes, this does trigger your commander. You do get that incubation token. And also, this can be incredible with those tokens. Pay X until end of turn, creatures you control have base power and toughness XX and gain all creature types. So first up, any of your other non-Phyrexian creatures you can turn into Phyrexians, which is great, again, for your commander's death trigger. And then also, hey, you know how all those, you know, Phyrexian artifact creature tokens, those incubated tokens are 0/0s? Let's put some mana into that. Maybe about Everflowing Chalice. Let's put a ton of mana into that. Pump that base power toughness of all of my creatures. And again, those counters on top of them just make them even more powerful. So yeah, this can be a great card in a deck like this. Speaking of great cards, Tempered Steel. This is one of the best anthems out there if, you know, it's for the right deck, essentially. An enchantment for 1 white. Artifact creatures you control get +2/+2. A great, incredibly efficient anthem. Again, 3 mana, +2/+2 for basically your entire army. Or they start to say, again, your army of artifact creatures, which again, the way that I would build this would probably focus more on artifact creatures, personally. Yeah, maybe Mirror Entity in there as well, but yeah, mostly artifact creatures, including those incubation tokens. So again, pumping up that base power and toughness can be huge with something like this. Again, incredibly efficient, incredibly effective, can help you demolish your opponents in absolutely no time. Now, though, that we've talked about every single one of the budget buys, let's move on to the pricier picks. Again, cards that are unfortunately just outside my budget. And oh my gosh, Mycosynth Golem. How I wish you were budget friendly. Oh my goodness, this card is just incredible, especially with a commander like this. Hey, a 4/5 Golem that does cost 11, but you're never going to pay 11. It says affinity for artifacts, which means it costs 1 to cast for each artifact you control. Affinity is a broken mechanic. And it doesn't stop there because this says, hey, artifact creature spells you cast have affinity for artifacts as well. So all of your artifact creatures, again, the way that I would build this deck personally would be artifact creature focus, not Phyrexian focus. Sorry, Phyrexian fans out there. Artifact creature focus is like, hey, all your spells are basically free. So yeah, you basically can play this for free after a certain point, which you get enough artifacts in play, which again, you can get a ton of artifacts in play very quickly with a commander like this, and then be like, let's play this 11 mana cost card for nothing. Make a, you know, Phyrexian token that has 11 counters on it. And then all my artifact creature spells in my hand are now free. Cool, let's play all those for free. Make all these artifact tokens. You can flood the board in absolutely no time. This thing is just gross. So yeah, definitely not budget friendly. But again, if it's in your budget, make sure you are considering this one. Next up, Ancient Stone Island. This one's like $7 or so. Wizards reprinted, please. It's a really cool card. 12/12 with Flash Golem, costs 10 again. So you're going to be making, you know, 10 counters on an incubator token. You just have to pay 2 to activate, essentially, right? It's going to cost 1 less to cast for each attacking creature. If your opponent is attacking you with a lot of creatures, you're like, cast this for free? 12/12? Ooh. Trample. So yeah, 12/12 trample with Flash. That's awesome. When it dies, you get a 6/12 colorless construct artifact creature with trample. So yeah, even when this dies, you get another trigger. It is fantastic. It is a great card for a commander like this. Again, make sure a giant, you know, incubation token, or at least with a lot of counters on it. You know what I mean. Also, a big threat itself also has a death trigger, which matters, again, with this kind of a commander and this kind of a strategy. So yeah, definitely a lot of cool ways to do this. Annoying Procession. Annoying Procession, of course, is a good card. Anytime you're talking about a commander that makes tokens, Annoying Procession is going to come up. That's why it's incredibly expensive. Any of those doubling season type cards, and this one obviously is in this color identity, is going to be incredible. If an effect would create one of our tokens under your control, it creates twice as many of those tokens instead. It does not specify creature tokens. So yeah, it can double up, you know, incubation tokens, all those other kinds of tokens, you know, treasure tokens, whatever you're going to be doing. But yeah. In this case, every single time you make a token, you're making another one. So yeah, have fun with that. Next up, Black Market, an enchantment for 3 black. Hey, you know what's good with this commander? Charge counters, creatures dying, lots of mana. Yeah, all the things. Here we go. Whenever a creature dies, put a charge counter on Black Market. Nice. That's going to be happening quite a lot again. Our commander cares about creatures dying. This cares about creatures dying. Great pairing there. Oh, and then again at the end step with your commander, hey, proliferate. Cool, get another charge counter on this. Beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you have black recharge counter on this. Again, this can get an absurd amount of charge counters incredibly quickly. It counts not just your creatures dying, but your opponents as well. And again, proliferating. Make an absurd amount of mana with this. You're going to get your mana investment back immediately from this, essentially. Or not immediately, but, you know, the next to your pre-combat main phase. You know what I mean? But yeah, utilize that mana to, well, activate your incubation tokens, to cast more spells, get way ahead of your opponents. This can just be absolutely absurd to push you way in front of your opponents and make you into, well, a massive threat that is going to take your opponents out in absolutely no time. Like, you know, the Phyrexians. Next up, Ashnod's Altar. My goodness, is this card good, especially with a commander like this. Sacrifice a creature, add colors to your mana pool. A free sacrifice outlet that actively provides you even more value. Again, provides you mana. You really could, if you really wanted to, kind of chain sacrificing one of your, you know, incubation creatures into, you know, activating another one, to sacrificing that one, to do that, and again. Now, I mean, what scenarios would you be doing that? Maybe if you have other death triggers on the board, like, you know, Marionette Masters, etc., etc. So yeah, you could do that, or obviously just utilize your, you know, creatures for essentially a lot of mana, a giant mana boost, to then utilize that again to activate incubations, to cast more spells. Just an incredible card. Again, it works really well, again, with death triggers, etc., etc. Just a great card, especially with a commander like this. Mystic Forge. Again, if you are like me and you're be leaning more heavily into artifact creatures and artifacts, you know, just in general in the deck, this is an incredible card for an artifact deck. Look at the top card of your library at any time. Great. You may cast the top card of your library as an artifact card or a colorless land card. Hey, now the top of your library is just basically a second hand. Again, if you're focusing heavily on artifacts and artifact creatures, you're going to be getting a lot of artifacts on the top of your deck, and great, you can just keep casting them from there. Again, basically a second hand, absolutely incredible. On top of that, tap, pay 1 life, exile the top card of your library. Hey, if you don't like it, get rid of it. 1 life is absolutely nothing. Again, it's kind of like drawing a card for 1 mana in a way, if you hit an artifact on top, and you can utilize it. You know what I mean, though. But basically, get rid of that useless card that you do not need on top of your library. Get something there that you can actually cast. A fantastic card, kind of like a future sight specifically for artifacts. Next up, Yawgmoth Reimposition. I actually had to double check this. Yawgmoth is not a Phyrexian. They did not like errata this one to be a Phyrexian. I can't remember if they actually had the Phyrexian creature type at this point. But yeah, Yawgmoth is not a Phyrexian, so do not make that mistake when you play. It's like, I get an incubation token. It's Yawgmoth. Has to be Phyrexian. Yawgmoth is not a Phyrexian. At least this version is not. Not that we've ever seen a Phyrexionized Yawgmoth version. Am I just missing something? Anyways, 2/4 human cleric, protection from humans. Pay 1 life, sacrifice a creature, get a -1/-1 counter up to 1 target creature, draw a card. Great. Hey, you know what's going to be great? Getting -1/-1 counters on your opponent's creatures, because you're going to be proliferating a lot with this commander again. Also, a free sacrifice outlet. Yes, you do have to pay 1 life. Whoop-de-doo. You're basically paying 1 life to take out opponent's creatures and also draw cards. A fantastic draw engine for you. And on top of that, with those cards that you're drawing, pay black, discard a card, proliferate. Again, another proliferation effect, a repeatable proliferation effect that can be incredible, again, with your incubation counters, can be incredible with your charge counters, all your other kinds of counters. Yeah, this can be quite deadly, quite effective, quite efficient. Yawgmoth, unfortunately, not a Phyrexian for this deck's purposes, but still one that you might want to consider with these pricier picks. And finally, yeah, I had to bring it up. Okay, again, if you are going Phyrexian Tribal, or even if you're not, you might want to consider, again, like Elishnorn Grand Cenobite. Does not say Phyrexian on it. Again, it is Phyrexian. You have to definitely double check with a lot of these things because they've errated a ton of Phyrexians. I mean, even like that little cute mirror, Plague Mirror, is now a Phyrexian as well. You little dude. Anyways, Elesh Norn is a Phyrexian, obviously. Now has been errated, would trigger your commander, so you'd make, you know, an incubation counter that has 7 on it. Incubation token that has 7 counters on it. 4/7, Vigilant, other creature control +2/+2. Creature opponents control get -2/+2. 8 Anthem for you. A negative Anthem for your opponents. Can wipe out your opponent's creatures, make them a lot smaller, make your creatures even deadlier. Yeah, basically a difference of 4 power. Absolutely brutal, absolutely incredible. And again, hey, you're making a token with this that also has a ton of power too. So again, if you're going Phyrexian Tribal, great, go for it. Again, I'm probably going to lean more toward, you know, Artifact Tribal, Artifact Creature Tribal, and yeah, Elesh Norn, regardless, is outside of my budget. So Artifact Creature Tribal is the way I'm probably going to be going. Regardless, a really exciting commander with Brimaz, Blight of Oreskos. Sorry, Brimaz, that happened to you. I'm so sorry, but yeah, I know you're a really cool card with a lot of possibilities. Again, you can go, you know, artifact creatures, Phyrexian creatures. You can go proliferate. You can go, you know, poison counters, essentially. You can go a combination of these things, essentially. There's a lot of exciting things that you can do with this commander. And I think a lot of players out there are going to be pretty excited about it. Again, make sure you're checking out that card list link in the description below if you haven't already. And make sure you consider picking up some of those cards. Also, if you haven't seen my most recent episode on Sidar Jabari of Zalfir, Eminence is back. Make sure you check that one out. But yeah, definitely interesting cards coming out so far. Make sure you're staying tuned to this channel for more exciting spoilers and quick takes coming up. And as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.